Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is one for the history books. We have a World War II Marine Corps veteran on the show. He served in Iwo Jima as a flamethrower. Flamethrowers in Iwo Jima had a 4-minute life expectancy, and this man is the only surviving flamethrower that served in Iwo Jima. His name is Don Graves. He's 98 years old. Grew up in the Great Depression, has experienced a lot of America's times, and gives us great perspective of what it was like growing up back then in the greatest generation known to America versus today, which is pretty eye-opening. Don gave me an artifact. Many of you know the studio here is full of artifacts from all of our guests and my personal service. This is a sword that Japanese commanders used to carry, and they would use it to commit suicide if they were going to be captured by an enemy combatants or if they knew they were going to be killed. This will be framed and on display in the studio for everyone to see. Starting to turn into a museum here at SRS. Ladies and gentlemen, I see a lot of you out there pulling our content, making your own content. We made it super easy for you. There's a link below. It's got hundreds of reels. Take them, monetize them, make money off of them, put it on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want. Make money off of it. All we ask is that you give credit to the Sean Ryan Show and tag us or link our show in the description. Head over to Apple and Spotify. Please leave us a review. Tell us how we're doing. That really helps the show. Like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you for all of the support that you give us and all the love. We here at SRS love you too. Without further ado, please welcome Don Graves to the Sean Ryan Show. And one last thing, I want to give a huge shout out to the Air Power Foundation who made this interview possible with Don Graves. Without them, none of this would have happened. Thank you so much. Don Graves, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It is an honor to have a World War II veteran sitting in this studio across from me today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for that compliment.
So, it's a real honor. I want to give you a quick introduction here. So, Corporal Don Graves, you're a husband. You've been married for 72 years, 98 years old. You're a father, a pastor, Christian, singer, and you were a flamethrower at the Battle of Iwo Jima, World War II, in the United States Marine Corps. A couple of facts for the audience. Flamethrower was the most dangerous job in the Marine Corps. Life expectancy in battle was 4 minutes, 92% casualty rate during Iwo Jima. Graves, you were the only flamethrower from your unit to survive and walk off of that island. Your unit began with 335 Marines, and only 18 left the island of Iwo Jima. No officers from your unit survived.
That's correct.
That's amazing. I'm just humbled to get your testimony on what happened that day. But first, everybody that comes on gets a gift. I got you a couple gifts.
Well,
There you go.
all right.
You can have a look, see what's in
Sean
there.
Ryan Show.
That's me.
Uh-oh.
That's right.
Uh-oh.
Some good stuff in there.
Uh-oh.
A couple of covers for you.
Vigilante Elite.
That's right.
Oh, I love these things.
What is it? Hats?
All the same.
No, there's another one.
Oh, is there?
There you go. That's the good stuff. Vigilance Elite Gummy Bears.
Hoagie baked. Hoagie baked.
Perfect. Perfect.
Another cap. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Yep. There it is. The Sean. No wonder he wanted me to look through the back like this. Another.
Just a couple more gummy bears.
Oh, my goodness.
That's all right. It's just a little something to remember our experience.
I know
here.
who would like to get one of these bags.
Yeah? I'll give you a couple more.
Oh, boy. This is real nice. That cap I'm going to really use.
Good.
Black. Black. You know why it's black?
Why is that?
Sands of Iwo Jima. Black volcanic ash.
Really?
All black. Thank you. This is
You're
really
welcome.
good.
You're welcome. And I got you one other thing. Just
What's
from
that?
one warrior to another, I got you a coin.
Well, what?
A coin.
Oh, well, thank you. Look what I've got for you. A coin.
Oh. Man, thank you.
Oh, that's
Air
a good
Power
one.
Foundation.
That's a nice one. I don't have this.
That is a Naval Special Warfare coin from that
that's
represents all the SEAL teams. And I thought
SEAL
you should
team.
have it.
That's a beautiful one.
Thank you. This is
I'll
beautiful
put
too.
this one by 350.
All right. Thank you. All right, Don. So I'd like to get into the interview, but being 98 years old, you have experienced a lot in life, and you have experiences that not many people have been through. Like I know you grew up through the Great Depression, and so I'd like to start with your childhood, what that was like growing up in the Great Depression, and then move into World War II, Iwo Jima, and then we'll move into what it was like coming home after war at that time period. And we'll get into what you were doing afterwards when you became a minister, and then maybe we'll talk a little where the country's headed, and then we'll end it.
All right.
Sound good?
Very good.
All right, so where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, 1925. I came up through the end of the big crash and went into the Great Depression. And President Roosevelt was our president, and thank the Lord he got in when we had that, because he settled, he got us out of it. Nobody had anything. Gas was 10 cents a gallon for your car. My mother used to put 50 cents in, and we'd ride around a little bit. When us kids, we'd chip in some money. We'd have an old car, and we'd chip in dimes, nickels, whatever we had. We'd pull up in front of a pump, and they pumped your gas for you, and they wiped your windshield and everything. You got everything for that dime.
Oh, wow.
And we'd pull up and say, he said, "How much gas do you need there, young fellas?" I said, "Put 50 cents in." He'd look at us. "Yeah, that's 50 cents. That's 5 gallons. 5 gallons of gas. We could last all day on that." So, it was hard, but things were cheap.
How old were you when the Great Depression hit?
The Great Depression? Well, I think it ended in 31.
So you would have been...
I think it ended around
6 years old?
1931. So I was born in 25, so I was just a little tot going through that, I can remember a Christmas. I wanted a trike. There were 2 boys and 2 girls. Not that early, but we told her it were 2 boys and 2 girls. I had a brother that was 18 months younger than me. And we had to share an old used trike that my mother got out of a trade shop.
Really?
She brought it home to us, yeah. And we would fight over that bike every time. My mother took it away and hit it on us, and that stopped the fighting. But we lived in a cottage. My grandma and grandpa lived on a farm, and they were on commodities. We were all on commodities, welfare, or whatever you want to call it. And that kept them going on the farm. And, it was hard to sell because nobody had any money. The money just wasn't there. And so we lived in the cottage all year round. And, cottages back then on a lake were made of panel, wallpaper, no insulation. And in the wintertime, and, it used to get down in the zeros, And we had a pot-belly stove, a big one. And we would get that going with wood. We went out and got wood. And we put that going with wood. When it got hot enough, we'd put the coal in there. We got coal in there. And then that would burn all day. And my job was to make sure that fire didn't go out all night. If it went out, I had a price to pay from my dad.
What was that?
He'd give us a good beating.
Yeah?
Yeah. He didn't mix words with it. He was a mean father.
He was.
I never had a good father, a wonderful mother. My father was a heavy drinker. I don't know. He never had a trade, but he did have a trade. He was a roofer, and roofers drank. Masons and carpenter, they all drank, and I don't know why. Whether it was the material they were using, the nails or whatever it was. But they'd always leave the job and go into a bar and drink and then not finish the day. When I was a little boy, I went with my dad. He carried shingles up a ladder. Can you imagine the cedars? They'd drop over your shoulder. I'd carry about 2 or 3 of them. And he would take practically a bundle up there. Well, so we all had to pitch in and work. And we lived on fish. We lived on wild game, rabbits, pheasant, quail. We hunted all the time, all year round. And the game warden never said a thing because he knew we were on, the Depression was on. Nobody had any money. They wouldn't be able to pay a fine if they were fined. So, but those were good years because we stood together, we loved one another, and we fought together. We just kept things going. Well, the Depression lifted. And we moved in Detroit. My dad started getting some roofing contracts. The sad problem is that he just spent money, and it didn't come to the family. So we still struggled quite a bit. The Depression boys never had good clothes, and that's why we never went to church, because we were ashamed to go into a church.
Oh, man.
And that has a little bearing on my life when I hit the beach at Iwo Jima, which I'll mention. Well, we went to school. I wasn't a good student. I didn't particularly like school. And, it's strange. I hated math. I hated math. And if you don't do math, you don't do well at all because you've got to have math. And I just didn't like doing it. I had a tough time, so they held me back a grade. And then when I got in junior high school, that was a bummer. And when I got in the 8th grade, I was about 16 years old. And I remember the 3 of my 2 buddies, we grew up together in the neighborhood. And we had an old car that was sat in front of the house in Detroit. And we rigged a radio up. It was an old radio. We rigged it up, and we would listen to the big bands. And
what were the big bands back
the
then?
big band numbers. Tommy Dorsey, Jimmy Dorsey, the brothers, 2 Irishmen fought all the time. And we had, Duke Ellington. He had a black band, great music, good music. And there were so many. Then Bing Crosby, the crooner, he always was on a particular radio show. We'd listen to him. And my grandma bought his recordings on an old Victrola, which you cranked. And as a kid, I spent time playing Bing Crosby, and I'd go sit down, and Bing would be singing. He'd like to, over the river. There was no power left. I had to go and crank it up again. That's what we had to do to listen to a recording. Kate Smith, The big lady, 200 pounds, great American woman. During the war, she introduced God Bless America. Irving Berlin wrote it for her, and she introduced it, and it just went wildfire. Today, nobody sings it unless I have them sing with me. They don't sing it. They don't know it. High school students do not know that song. And
That's
it's a
a
great
shame.
song. It's another patriotic song. So my brother and I, we struggled through. I sold newspapers, Saturday Evening Post for a nickel. I got 2 cents. A newspaper was 3 cents. I got half a cent. I got a cent for every 2 papers I sold. I mean, that's what we did. But you could buy stuff for what you had. You could always buy something. You got something for your money, you know. And and when we got to be teens, you know, we would go out to the lake and swim. We had a gang of us that get together in an old car, and we'd go out to the lake, my grandma's cottage. She'd let us use the cottage, and we had a beautiful 90-foot drop-off, sand beach, you know, sand waiting, then you drop down. It was a crystal clear, loaded with pike, loaded with bass, loaded with walleye pike, and perch and crappies. We lived on that stuff. Today, I love fish.
You do.
I love fish. I do. I love seafood. Yeah. Well, anyway, we were healthy kids. It's strange, isn't it? We didn't have a lot of stuff kids have today, but we were healthier. We went through a lot. We had all the diseases, even before they had all the shots. And it was strange, you know, we used to walk home from school and we'd notice a black Ford coupe. Well, when you saw a black Ford coupe, that was a nurse. And if it was in front of your house, she was in there waiting to give us shots.
Oh, okay.
Oh man, we want to skip and get out of there, but we know we had to go in there. So in we go, and she's, here they are. So my brother would come in. I had 2 sisters, all of us. Roll your sleeve up. I don't want that shot. Oh my God, we you know, in those days we were afraid of all that stuff. Well, they gave us shots. And then she left, and well, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, our arms were sore, but we went through all of that. We didn't have any particular thing to keep the pain away. But we were healthy kids. We didn't see the doctor a lot. We did have trouble with our teeth. And my mother, she was a great cook and a great baker. She had a bakery during the Depression. I can remember in Detroit, on the west side, we needed a place to live, so there was a store, and in the back there was everything you needed. It was everything to live with, but in the front it was sort of like you could put they had a couple of counters in there, so you could put a bakery in, and we put a big shade, a drape across that. We lived behind that. That's how we lived, and. She would sell bakery and sell cakes. The only problem is my dad would tap the till. He'd open the till up and take money and go out. He'd be drinking.
Oh, man.
He just irresponsible. And us boys, we worked. When I was 10 years old, I will never forget it. My 2 buddies were coming down the sidewalk, and one of their dads worked for the Detroit City Railway. He always had a job. Always. Streetcars, buses, always had a job. So he always had money in his pocket. And he shared. We all shared. And so they came by and they said, hey, Don, you want to go to the movie with us Saturday? And I said, I haven't got any money. He said, all you need is a dime. Get in. I said, I'd have a dime. Wait a minute, maybe I'll ask my mom. Things were a little bit better then. I walked in, I'll never forget. Ma, can I have a dime? She says, what do you want a dime for? I want to go see a movie. Ken Maynard, favorite cowboy, is going to be on. She said, you want a dime? I said, yes, ma'am. Go earn it. I don't have it. I don't know what we're going to have for supper, but we'll have something. She always managed to have something. And you know, she said that to me. And I went out, and my two buddies says, I will each give you a nickel. Let's go. And I never forgot what she said. So I went to work. After school, I did everything I could. I shoveled snow in front of stores. I'd ask them if I could clean it. They'd give me 35, 40 cents like that, maybe 50 cents, 25. And I always had money in my pocket. And you always have friends when you have money in your pocket. All your buddies come around.
You learned that at a young age, huh,
Oh,
Don?
yeah. So I became quite independent like that. I've worked since I was 10 years old. And I'm paying a little bit for it right now. But the ministry, that was mental stress, you know. But the other work I did, it was decorating. I climbed ladders, hung wallpaper, refinished wood, antique furniture. I did it all in the line of decorating or refurbishing. And that was hard work. And now my legs are paying for it. I believe that's what it is.
Really?
Yeah, because I never injured my legs. Yeah, but they say you'll still pay a price. I remember coming home from the war. I sat in the front room. My dad was reading the paper, and I says, you know, Dad, I'm really lucky. He said, why? I said, I went through 4 years of war, and I came home. There's not a thing wrong with me. He said, give it a little time yet. He was in the First World War. He said, when you get older, you're going to find out you're going to pay.
What did your dad do in the First World War?
In the First World, he was in the Marines. He was in the Marine Corps at PI, Paris Island. I was San Diego, Hollywood. And they got that swine flu swept in there and killed a lot of them.
Really?
They didn't have anything to take for it. And he got it. And he did have a problem continuously. Didn't keep him from working, but it would hit him every now and then. You'd come back on him. But a lot of them died, so he couldn't go aboard ship. They wouldn't put him on a ship. So they just let him do whatever they could keep him busy doing, you know. Well, the war ended. We only fought in it for a year. It ended. Well, he came home and went back to roofing and doing that type of work. But those fellows, his brother worked with him, and both of them would go out and get drunk and never work on the job. It was irresponsible. Their father was no good. I met my grandpa once or twice. Heavy drinker. It was passed on down the line. You know, during the Great Depression, people drank. They made their own stuff because, you know, it was a prohibition was on. Below the cottage, my brother and I would open up the doors and we'd crawl on. You know, you don't know what's under those houses. That's where they threw everything. They stuffed everything under the houses. So we opened the trap doors out and we crawled in there. We had rattlesnakes there in Michigan and Detroit, outside of the city. And they're short rattlesnakes, so we have to be very careful. I found these big, like a jack. And it had a crank handle. And I thought, what is this thing? So I took it out, and I brought it around the house. And my mother was in there. He was gone. I said, Mom, where did you get that? I said, under the porch. You put that back in there. You don't need to know what that is. Well, they capped bottles with it. They made their own booze, wine, and they made liquor.
What kind of liquor?
That's what was going on.
What kind of liquor?
I have no idea, but I mean...
So Prohibition
fire, water, whatever. But it ain't like you get over here.
Yeah. So Prohibition was going on at that
time.
time.
Prohibition was going on. Then Roosevelt got in. And Roosevelt said to his vice president, I feel like a glass of beer. And boom, that opened it up. And believe it or not, they didn't drink as much when the prohibition was lifted.
No kidding.
You tell a person you can't do that, he's going to try and do it.
Yeah.
We're all like that. We can't. There was a lady of ours, she was a wealthy woman, and when I was in the ministry, she helped us out a lot. I mean, she practically bought a house from me. I mean, she was just such a wonderful old bohemian woman. She had a lot of money. And she shared. And, you know, we'd be painting in the parsonage net, painting everything up. And she'd come in, she says, "How are you fellows doing?" And I says, "Do you want one to look at, Mary? Don't touch him because it's wet." And she'd go to the wall. Oh, tell them not to do it and they'll do it. Especially children. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I told you enough about growing up as a child.
What was school like back then? What kind of stuff were you learning in school?
School was very strict. You didn't mind it, but I go in and speak in a lot of high schools and junior high schools. They hang around the halls and horse around, and we never did that. You didn't do that. You went to your classroom. There were hall monitors. I don't see them anymore, but hall monitors, there were students that were advanced, and they would tell you, "Go to your room." They could order us in our room. It was strict, and yet you didn't mind the strictness because it was a system that you got used to. You know exactly what to do. Our teachers were older women, never young women, and they were spinsters. They never got married. They were dedicated to their profession. They were our second mother.
I know I am not the only one out there that struggles with sleep. I had a major problem sleeping. In fact, I didn't sleep much at all. I wake up in the middle of the night with a sore back, a sore neck, sweating, because for some reason I sleep hot. And then on top of that, when you do wake up in the morning, because you always get like that last 45 minutes before you know you got to wake up, right? And it's like the race against the clock to try to get a little bit of sleep. Then you get the sleep. Then you got to spend, at least I did, my first 45 minutes of the day stretching, wandering around the house in all kinds of weird positions just to try to loosen my back up so I can put my shoes on to go to work. Well, then I started going to mattress stores and you guys get it. You go to the mattress store and you get like 20 different sales pitches on why you need to buy the $6,000 mattress. Well, I had a friend tell me about this company, Helix Mattresses. So I went to the website. They got 20-something mattresses to choose from. They're all memory foam. They have cooling technology that keeps your body cool at night. That way you're not waking up sweating like I am. And the cool thing is they actually have a test. Don't worry, you're not going to fail it. But it's just a questionnaire, and they ask you a little bit about your sleep routine, what positions you're sleeping in, and then they make a recommendation on what they think the best mattress is for you. On top of that, they have a 100-day test period where you can sleep on the mattresses. If you don't like them, you can return them, exchange them, whatever you want to do. I'm telling you, Helix was a game changer for me. Now I don't have to wake up and wander around the house and do all my stretching. Look, I don't even know what it does. It just works. Don't just take my word for it, guys. GQ and Wired Magazine have named Helix their #1 mattress. Like I said, just go online, go to helixsleep.com/SRS, take the quiz. It only takes you 2 minutes. Helix is offering 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for my listeners. Again, that's helixsleep.com/SRS. This is their best offer yet, and it's not going to last long. Go with Helix. Better sleep starts right now. You all have heard the buzz about ketone supplements and how they can boost your workouts by using fatty acids for fuel. I personally take HVMN's Ketone IQ just about every morning before every workout and multiple times during the interview. What I like about it gives me focused energy. It's not an energy drink. It doesn't give you the jitters or the anxiety like energy drinks do. It's just ketones. So it gives you focused energy, helps me focus on my interviews, on my workout, gives me energy, gets me fueled for the day. You can also pick up Ketone IQ now in Sprouts all across the country. For my audience, HVMN is offering 30% off your first subscription order of Ketone IQ. You can find Ketone IQ at hvmn.com. Use the promo code Sean at checkout to save 30% off your first subscription. That's promo code Sean. That's hvmn.com, promo code Sean for 30% off your first subscription of Ketone IQ.
I can remember several of us kids would become sick and we'd throw up. She cleaned that up. The janitor had one job, and that's to keep the boiler going in the wintertime, but if any of us was sick, she had to clean that up. I mean, that's what they did. And every morning we marched out of school around the flagpole and pledged allegiance.
After school?
No, in the morning, after school started. And on Thursday, the president, he had a program that he talked to children. Roosevelt did. And they had that on during school.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We listened to it. You listen to the president.
What would he talk about?
Huh?
What kind of stuff would he talk about?
Education, how we could be a president. I mean, it was really good. Now, this is in junior high school and senior high, you know. I'll never forget it because I can remember him talking. Do you know that every Saturday night in Detroit, President Roosevelt, all over the country, but for us in Detroit, see, the comics came out Saturday night. The white section came out Sunday morning. So we always get the comics and we lay them out on the floor. Well, the president would come on. All right, children, lay your comics on the floor because we're going to find out what happened to Lil Abner. And then Maggie and Jiggs. Did their daughter ever get married? Well, let's find out. Oh, it was so interesting. It was so good. My mother would sit there and listen.
How long was it just Roosevelt that would speak to the kids, or did this go on through every presidency up to a certain point? Was it just Roosevelt that spoke to the kids, or did it continue on after Roosevelt?
Oh, no, that was Roosevelt. That was strictly Roosevelt.
Okay.
Harry Truman got in. Things changed. We had a war, you know. Roosevelt got us out of the war. You know, the day we loaded up and took off from Iwo back to Pearl Harbor, we got the speaker sounded off. Now hear this. The old man is dead. We said, old man. President Roosevelt died this morning with a cerebral hemorrhage. Harry Truman will become the vice president, or the president. We said, well, who's Harry Truman? We never heard of Harry Truman. Roosevelt never used his vice president much, like they use him now, you know. But Harry did a good job, yeah. He was a mule skinner.
Did you guys learn a lot about American history in school?
Oh, we loved history. We had American history. Detroit has the Detroit Fort at Mackinac. It's between Canada and Michigan. That fort is still there, and tourists go in there all the time. And they play over the speaker a battle between them and the Indians. It's interesting. Families love it. We had the Mohegans. There was a story written, and it became a movie, Last of the Mohegans.
I've seen that.
Yep, Last of the Mohegans. So Detroit had a lot of good history. Well, it's the birthplace of Ford Motor. And Henry Motor, he did a lot for the city. He and Roosevelt got together and started Bad Boys trade school. And most of it in those days was tool and die.
Really?
Well, things changed. Automation, tool and die went out.
What was punishment like in school?
Pardon?
What was punishment?
Punishment? There was everything. There was discipline dealt with for if the teacher handled minor discipline. If it was any further than that, she called for the vice principal, and the vice principal would come down. And if he had to single one or two out, he said, "After school, in my office." We'd say, "Yes, sir." And we went into his office. He would talk punishment. The principal, old man Cotter, ready for retirement, would use a razor strap on your hand.
Oh.
Bam! Bam! And he'd watch your face. And the best thing you could do was start crying, because he stopped then. And the women were working right around the desk and all that. They hated it. You could see them wince their face. Well, old man Cotter died, and Mr. Long, the vice president, took over. And he called me in the office one day. He lived 2 blocks from us. I used to deliver him newspapers. He said, "Donald, I want to show you something." He reached in a drawer, the president's desk, He picked it out and he said, "You remember this?" "Yes, sir, I'll never forget it." He said, "Throw it in the ash can for me." You're the last one that was strapped with that. He never resorted to physical punishment. He humiliates you with talk. He impressed you. You went home thinking.
Yeah.
You didn't go home rubbing. Those were good days.
Yes.
Yes, we got tired of school, and yes, we waited for summer vacation to come, and then we all had to go to work. Couldn't lay around. We all had to go to work. I sold news. I was a Western Union boy in Detroit. I delivered telegrams all over Detroit, downtown section, some for the Detroit Tigers. I had interesting people. I knew every business building downtown. People would say, "Donald, I have to go pay a bill." And where is the Ford building? You take what you call it to work and then jump over on what you call it, and it's about 2 blocks down on the left. You can't miss it.
What kind of stuff did you like to do for fun back then?
For fun?
Yeah.
I loved fishing. Yeah. I liked organized softball, but I liked fishing and hunting. That's what I loved to do.
Really? What kind of fish?
Huh?
What kind of fish?
Crappies, bluegills, perch, bass. When we trolled deep troll for a pike. And I'm talking about pike right like that, 2.5 feet long, right like the good size northern pike. A lot of bone, but delicious meat. Friday in Michigan. It's that way in Wisconsin. I don't know if it's that way around here or not, you're down south. But every Friday was fish night. It was fish night.
Yeah.
And everybody loved to go out for fish. I'd say to my wife, "Today, Friday, the kids would be gone. Want to go for fish? Yeah, let's go down to the golf club and eat fish there." Friday night fish.
What would you hunt?
Huh?
What kind of animal would you hunt?
I love rabbit. My mother could roast rabbit. Oh, she was good with rabbit. Yeah. And I love birds. Grouse are delicious. Very delicate. Yeah.
Deer?
Huh? Venison. I like a good venison steak with pancakes.
Really?
Oh, that goes good. Maple syrup. It goes good. Yeah. I went deer hunting up north with my dad. 14 years old. Never forget it. There was a cousin of mine there, 14, same as me. We hunted together. They put us on a stand, and we had slugs and a shotgun. They had rifles. They went around, drove them towards us. And then when they come at us, they would either fire at them or tell us which way they went. Because when they came at us, they'd veer off and go that way. So they wanted to know why we didn't take a shot. We couldn't kill them. We couldn't do it. We were young. They would stand there and look at you. How could you kill something like that?
Yeah.
Unless you were starving or hungry. We couldn't do it. We couldn't kill them. You're not even going to use your guns anymore. When we get back, leave them.
What kind of rifles were you using?
Huh?
Do you remember what kind of rifles you were using?
Winchesters, yeah. Remington, 12 gauge, 16. You know, what they claimed on birds, the best weapon was a 20 gauge. Straight ahead, you know.
I believe that's still true to
small
this
pattern,
day. Yeah.
like a bullet. Excuse me, a round. Couldn't do that in the Marine Corps. Round. How many rounds hit him? 3 of them got him in the leg.
What got your interest in the military?
Pardon?
What got your interest in the military?
My dad was in the Marine Corps in the First World War. He never talked much about it, but I knew he was in, and we'd ask him questions, and he reluctantly answered us. He was not a discussion-type person at all. No, I don't know he'd go like that, you know. It was, I don't know, he had something in his childhood, just a mess, you know. But what was your question?
I asked you what got your interest in joining the Marine Corps?
What?
What got your interest in joining the Marine Corps?
To go in the Corps. 2 actors, Pat O'Brien, Jimmy Cagney. Both of them played a lot of Marines, tough sergeants, and I just liked the Marine Corps. I liked the uniform. We were all honest by saying, you got to admit, it was the uniform that really interested us.
It still is.
Or we paid a heavy price. A heavy price. We went into boot camp. The first thing we heard there by a bunch of kids that had already went through, "You'll be sorry." Yeah, but I love the Corps. We fought good. We were Americans. This is one thing that the Corps appreciated when we went in to sign up. Why are you signing up on the Marine Corps? You realize that we're the first to fight? We said, yes, sir. Well, why do you want to come in the Marine Corps? Because I know they fight, and we want to fight the enemy. We want to fight Japanese. That's just the way we felt.
Was that?
See, we learned that. We learned that in school also.
A lot of patriotism back then.
Yes. And the movies went to war. Yep. Hollywood was good in those days. It's a bunch of trash now. Trash.
What was the media like?
Media?
Yeah, the news. Were they very...
I think, in all fairness, I have never experienced anything in my life until now, these past years. The last of what I was used to was with Donald Trump. I haven't seen it since. Breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I love my country. People are distorted. Their minds are all goofed up. They don't know what to do. And that's because the schools are to blame. With our high school kids today, I'll be very honest and frank, and I know what I'm talking about because I've spoken high schools. Can you imagine a high school, a school dropout, going to a college or university and talking to students? The Baptist Theological Seminary I went and spoke to twice in Dallas. And they know that I did not finish school. Why? What's the difference? What happened? I think that we learned something that was deep-rooted with our country that they don't get today. No. And Hollywood is not making good, wholesome movies about our country. We learned a lot of history from Hollywood. A lot of history. We learned all about Ford, how he started out. Our electricity, everything. The first mirror in an operating room, Thomas Edison put a mirror up, and it deflected the light directly right on the wound where they were working.
Yeah.
But it was done by reflection. He thought of that. We saw all of the Thomas Edison movies, very educated. Alexander Graham Bell, the electricity. How that Wabash, Indiana, is the place where they lit the first lights. That town is still there, and those lamps are still there in the streets.
Really?
My son had a home there for a couple of years, and I went there quite a few times.
Did Americans get along back then?
I think that we got along good with because, we had parades. We had parades all the time, and I thank my dad for doing it, but, young boys forget. And when the flags would come by in the parade, we'd be sitting down. Get up on your feet, the flag is coming. Now, can you imagine my father spending more loyalty to the flag than he did his family? But that's what he was. That's what he was trained. He was a Marine. So we would stand in our home. When Roosevelt spoke, we stood up in our home.
Wow.
That's the way it was.
Some different times. A lot of respect.
We had parades. Do you know that all of the car industry, the big factories in Detroit, do you know that the 4th of July, they all had company picnics and families, members and families that worked there were invited to the picnic. Everybody went there. The parks were jammed full all over the city of Detroit. They paid for everything. That's gone. There's nothing like that anymore. After the war, it ended. It stopped. So that lost a real relationship, a touch there. There was a bond there.
Yeah.
We've lost that. Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout. I speak to Boy Scouts. Up at Roanoke, they had Boy Scouts there. It was a patriotic day, and I spoke. And they were standing around with their hands in their pocket. One kid had his shirt tail hanging out. And I said to the scoutmaster, "Is the scoutmaster there?" And he raised his hand. "Would you mind bringing the boys up to the front?" And he said, "Sure." And he got them all together. They all came up the front. They thought they were going to be recognized. And I said, "Would you boys turn around and face the audience?" And they turned around and faced the audience. And I said, "Young men, do you realize that you are the future of America? Do you realize that maybe someday you will have to take our place when it comes to battle? Look at you now. You got your hands in your pocket, your shirt's hanging out. Look at your socks. Straighten up. Get in good shape there. And do you help people cross the street? We did. If you saw a woman with bags of groceries and wraps, would you help her, or would you let her walk right by you? I mean, and the scoutmaster stayed on the other side looking at me, and he shook his head with agreement. That's what we got. That was just recent. We got a problem, and the school is to blame for it.
Yeah, I don't disagree
The
with you
school
there.
had more of us than our own mothers, and they didn't use it. And they're not using it today, and we're losing good teachers because they're not going to teach that junk. Trash. Has nothing to do with our country. And another thing is, one thing we have to learn. I speak to a lot of our young men that have lost their arms and legs. They can never say they had victory. They can never say they won the battle. It's still going on. They've been doing it for 2,000 years, for crying out loud. They've been fighting Israel. It's not going to stop. That's all they know. We had no business going in there. And we sent our boys in there because, oh, we're America. We're going to help the world. The world doesn't help us. We're on our own.
Yeah.
So you ask a question like that, and I reach way out that far ahead.
Well, I appreciate the fact that
But
you do.
we've got to look at this. We need to know we've got to realize what's happening. We've got to get back to being a patriotic country. We've got to protect our nation. We've got to see that gate slam shut on the border. Run those that are standing there, run them back over on the Mexican side. Shut that gate up and lock it up forever.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen.
I think so too.
It's going to happen real quick.
I think you're right.
That may sound like harsh words, but I love this country, and we better start. I was in France, Normandy. We spent some time in Normandy, 3 veterans. We were invited there for a big celebration. One of the first things I saw when we drove into the yard of a home where they were going to keep us for 4 or 5 days, I saw the American flag flying right next to a French flag. And I saw it everywhere, all over that part of France. Schools, buildings, American and French flags together. And I didn't know that. I never really liked the French. I didn't like the way they fought. I didn't like the way they stood back when things were happening. I just never liked it. I had a lesson to learn. Those people loved their country. They went through battle hell. They have memorials, and they're not going to erase them. I was told that they've got memorials. They have stains on walls where they had firing squads during the First World War. I never liked that. Well, let me tell you something. If anyone goes to France and goes to Normandy and goes a few miles out of Normandy, they will see a little church chapel that is over 100 years old on a river side. It is called the Church of the Blood-Stained Pews. We didn't know what that meant, so we were invited in. It's a history. St. Patty was in it.
Really?
He went there. And we couldn't understand what this blood stain was. So she took us on a tour and showed us the benches. There are blood all over the benches, stained dry. From the Second World War. The Germans took that town over. And they fought from inside of that chapel. And we beat them and drove them out of town, but our boys got hit. And they set a hospital up inside the church, but hadn't done it. They couldn't quite get it all done. And the boys were sitting in the pews waiting to be taken care of, and there was blood all over the place. It's still there. My dear friend Kelly was with us. She knows. She's seen it. Or did you not? I don't think she did. That was some other place. We went to Ireland. I got to Ireland, too.
So let's get back to what got you interested in joining the military. What got you into joining the military? How old were you when World War II started?
How old? When the war started? 16 years old.
16 years old.
16, yes. And I'll never forget what really stimulated me. It was the 8th of December, one day after Pearl Harbor. And it was cold, 8 degrees below in Detroit. And we were sitting in an old car listening to the big bands over an old radio we hooked up. And we were wrapped up in a blanket. We had caps and jackets on, but we wanted to listen to the big bands, you know. And our parents really didn't particularly like it, so here we could listen to it. And then all of a sudden the announcer comes on. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this broadcast. The President of the United States will address the nation." And on came Roosevelt, our hero. He led us through the war, and we beat the enemy. And this is what he said. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941,
a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
I interpret the will of Congress and of the people. We shall gain triumphant victory, so help us God.
I don't know if I've ever been this excited to represent a brand. I'm talking about First Form. I just align so well with what they've got. First Form is a supplement company. They have just about every supplement you can possibly imagine. All grade A stuff. Let's go through some of the stuff that, some of my favorites, all right? Here we go. 1, Enduro Performance. This is a non-stimulant pre-workout mix. Guess what? Made in the USA. Protein sticks and the protein bar. Look, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm super busy. I don't have time to go to lunch. In fact, I don't even know what a lunch break is. This is my lunch for the most part. Then we got Opta-Reds 50. Guess what? Also made in the USA. So is the protein bar and the beef sticks, actually. But Opta-Reds 50, guess what, guys? Beets, super healthy for you. Guess what? They taste like shit. This doesn't. 2 scoops, throw it in there. You get all the benefits of having beets with Opta-Reds 50. Then we've got protein. Everybody needs protein. If you're not taking protein, you should be, especially if you work out. My favorite, chocolate banana. Guys, let me tell you something else about First Form. The owner, CEO, Andy Frisella, guy has made a phenomenal company. True American dream story. Started from absolutely nothing, sleeping on a mattress in the back room of a very small shop. Now, he's built an empire. Check it out. Go to firstform.com/SRS. He's also put a culture into his company that this entire country could use right now. Gave me a ton of inspiration. I used to listen to his podcast, Real as Fuck, when I was building my first studio in the attic of my house 3.5 years ago, right when the show started. Can you believe that? Now I'm repping the brand. And if you haven't checked out their podcast, you might want to. Like I said, Real as Fuck. Check it out. I'm actually on there. I do a pretty decent job, but let me know what you think. Anyways, once again, go to firstform.com/SRS. And when you get there, if you order $75 or more worth of product, guess what? You're getting free shipping. But you're only getting that if you go to firstform.com/SRS. That's 1STPHORM/SRS. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a real American company that aligns with all the values that America stands for. Check them out. If you're a business owner and you're hiring right now, you are also dealing with economic uncertainty. Now is the time more than any other time that you need to hire the right people faster and more efficiently than ever before to keep your costs down. Thankfully, there's a site like ZipRecruiter. From pricing to technology, everything that ZipRecruiter does is for you and what works best for you. And right now, you can try them for free. It's ZipRecruiter.com/SRS. Here is how ZipRecruiter prioritizes your needs. Reach more qualified people. ZipRecruiter sends your job post to 100+ job sites. Beat out the competition for talent. ZipRecruiter lets you invite candidates you really want to apply to your job before other businesses can snag them. Hire the best with the help of a partner who's all about you. ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Just go to this exclusive web address to try ZipRecruiter for free, ziprecruiter.com/SRS. Again, that's ziprecruiter.com/SRS. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
As soon as that was over with, I said to my 2 buddies, I said, tomorrow morning I'm skipping school. I'm going down and join the Marine Corps. And they said, you can't, you gotta be 17 years old and you have to have your mother and dad's signature. Well, I can get them both. I only got 6 months to go. I'm going down and get the paper. So I got up in the morning and I had 2 sisters and a brother. I said, don't tell anything to Mom. I'm going down to the Marine Corps office this morning. So I took off. I ran downtown. Saw a gunny sergeant in the doorway. He met me. He said, young man, what can I do for you? I said, I want to join up. He said, how old are you? I said, 16. He said, I can't take you. You got to be 17. When will you be 17? I said, in 6 months. Tell you what I'll do. If you want to do this, I will give you a piece of paper. You take that paper to your mother and father, and when you're 17, you have them sign it, bring it back, and we'll do business. You want to do that? Yes, sir. He said, go. And out the door I went, down the stairway. Ran all the way home as best I could. Ran through the back door, but I forgot I skipped school. And my mother was there baking. And she said, what are you doing home? And I realized I had skipped school. And I said, Ma, I skipped school. I went down to the Marine Corps office and I got papers. And when I'm 17, I'm going to go in the Marine Corps. No, you're not. You're going to stay in school. You're not going to. I went through this already. One more. I'm not going through this again. So forget it. Throw it away. I went in the front, in the dining room, and went in the buffet, opened the drawer, tucked it under some papers, shut the drawer. 6 months later, it was May 3rd, and we had a small party. My dad was there. And I knew I had no problem with him. So I went and got that piece of paper out. I didn't have a pen. I said, Dad, sign this, will you? He said, what is it? I'm going in the Marine Corps. Give me a pen. He grabbed the pen and he signed it. He said, Vera, sign this. She said, I'm not signing that. And she went through that same thing. I went through this before. I'm not going to go again. He said, Vera, let me talk to you a minute. Now, listen to me. The boy walked out of school. He's doing odd jobs. He'll probably turn out to be a bum. And I went like this to my mother. She said, give me the paper. And she signed it. They both had to sign. I went out that door and I ran all the way downtown, saw the sergeant again.
What did he say?
He looked at that. He said, you got it? I said, I have. Here it is. He said, good. Now he said, I want to tell you something. See that door over there? Yes, sir. You're going to go in that door and meet a Navy doctor. I said, yes, sir. He said, he's going to check you over from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. You ain't never going to forget it. Do you want to do that? I said, yes, sir. He said, go. I went in, knocked on the door, and said, come on in. Walked the door, and he did. He checked me from the top of my head to the tip of my toes, and I ain't never going to forget it, and I haven't forgot it yet. That was it. That was the start. Well, he said, I'll call you in 2 weeks. And your mother and father bring you to the train station. We'll go to San Diego, and you'll go 8 weeks of boot camp.
How many 16-year-olds were signing up back then? Or 17-year-olds?
Well, a lot of them tried it, but you had to have your birth certificate, and the birth certificate doesn't lie. There it is. So they had to be 17. You hear about them sneaking in the Army. That was a lot easier, but you could never do it in the Marine Corps.
Really?
No, there's no way you're going to get away with it. They're not going to take that liability. They just didn't think they had to, you know.
Yeah.
But
A lot of people joining back then?
huh?
A lot of people joining the armed forces?
Oh, it was when you boot camp. Oh, in San Diego, the Marine Corps base. That parade ground where we trained was so packed full of platoons of young kids. It was amazing how we didn't hit. We went right around one another. The DIs were good. They yelled command of everything we had to do. Left oblique, right oblique, left turn. And we never went into one another. They couldn't. In fact, they stopped taking them in until we could get them out of there. You know, graduate. Tyrone Power, the actor, was in there. One platoon behind me. Glenn Ford was in there. Eddie Albert from Green Acres was in there.
Really?
Yes, we had people in there from Hollywood. Hollywood went to war.
Everybody was joining.
The Duke, John Wayne, tried to go in the Corps. And the officer said to him, he says, Duke, he said, take care of your family at home. You're 40 years old. He says, go home and take care of your boys and make movies so we can learn something. We learned from Hollywood. They had some good military movies.
Yeah.
They really did. It's exaggerated junk today. There is one I highly recommend, Letters from Iwo. That is a classic. If you want to know how the Japanese really felt about fighting on Iwo Jima, see that movie. They were lied to. They were told by the politicians that they were on a holy war. And that meant they would never surrender. They would always fight to the death. But all of a sudden, the soldiers start surrendering. They got word that they were lied to. That's what it was all about.
Well, what was your training like in Marine Corps boot
In the Marine
camp?
Corps, very severe training. Our DIs were, I don't know what's going on now. I can't speak up for it now, but our DIs they had a lot of time in the Corps. They were salt. They'd been in the Philippines. They had really been around, and they were stiff. I mean, when you had rifle inspection in the morning, every morning, port arms, unload weapon, pull the bolt open. He would come by and grab that out of your hand and flip it around in his hand. Look through the barrel on that. He'd find something wrong. What is this? I looked at it and I thought, sure, I cleaned it. I said, sir, that's dirt. Wipe it right on my face, just like that. Clean it off and clean your weapon. I want everything clean on that weapon tomorrow. I mean, that's the way it was. No, we never left home before. I mean, that would bring tears to our eyes. I mean, we felt beat down on the ground, but it made men out of us. Show me a platoon that'll go through the Marine Corps, training, basic, and walk downtown on Liberty. He doesn't slouch around with his hands in his pocket. He's marching. We walked like we were doing cadence everywhere we went. My daughter told me, one time in Dallas, she said, I was waiting to go aboard the plane. And we were about 3 or 4 of us waiting. A young man came up and he had a suitcase and he set it down on the ground, on the floor. And he was standing there and he was looking around. He said, this young fellow, he said, can I ask you a question? He said, yes, ma'am. Are you a Marine? Yes, ma'am. She said, I thought so. You can see it. You can tell it when he walks down the street, if he cares at all.
Yeah, I'll bet. What else did they train you to do in boot camp?
Excuse me?
What else did they train you to do in boot camp?
It was a matter of well, your calisthenics, your marching and all that. That is to uniform right, parades, ceremonials. You have to learn and know that. The rest of it was combat training. One of the first things we did, we had bayonets. And we had our rifles, and we fixed bayonets. And he had each one of us come up. And they had a dummy there. And he said, there's a Japanese soldier coming at you there. What are you going to do with that rifle? And we would thrust that blade in. But we'd just poke it. And he'd stop, grab it out of your hand, shove you back and say, you're dead. And just like that. Like, can you imagine talking to 17-year-old kids that way? Like, first time they left home, but we needed it. We're gonna face the enemy. I mean, and these guys, they've had it drilled in their head too, because a lot of them never saw any action yet. You know, too young. But he showed his. Now I want to show you something, and he took a rifle with his bayonet, and he showed us what you do. If you can't get it up, pull the trigger. It'll come out. That's what you learn.
So you went to Delta Company's 2nd Battalion, 28th Marines, 5th Marine Division, correct?
Yep. Brand new division.
It was brand new at that time.
Called Spearhead Division, and Roosevelt wanted that division specific for one thing, which we never knew till one day off the island, Iwo Jima.
Really?
Absolutely. We did not know. But I knew one thing after I saw Iwo. We didn't know it at the time, but we always invaded a knoll or a hill. If you've been out San Clemente Island?
Yes, I have.
We invaded that island.
Really?
Yes, and there was just like a volcano on it, you know, and we would approach that, and I'd use fire and everything. I mean, we trained down that island. That's what it was used for.
Wow, I trained on that island.
But we didn't understand. It didn't mean anything to us.
Yeah.
But here we're standing there looking at Mount Suribachi, and I said, my gosh, now I know what the heck we were doing.
So you went from San Diego, and then you went to New Zealand.
Yeah, that first time over.
Where?
Yes. We went to New Zealand to train, because New Zealand opened up its doors. They have a great vast of desert because they have a lot of cattle, sheep. And it was just like California. And it's only 200 square miles, you know, but they let us do that there. And so otherwise it would be Hawaii.
In New Zealand?
Yes, New Zealand.
Did you know you were going to Iwo Jima when you went to New Zealand?
Did we know we were going to New Zealand? You never know where you're going to go. That's never told. That's never brought up. You just go. Do you know we left San Diego, arrived at New Zealand 21 days later. Zigzag, 7 knots, just like that, slow. That's slow, but that was because of submarines. You don't run a straight line. You zigzag. So when we went from island to island, it took a long time.
Did you see any engagements from submarines?
Pardon?
Did you see any engagements?
We never did. And you know, I had a sailor was standing alongside the line. And I said, hey, this is scary. We don't have any protection. He says, sure you do. And I said, where? He said, guns, we got that, but I mean out there. He said, don't worry, we got plenty of protection if we need it. Well, something happened, and I don't know what it was. We got near the equator. And all of a sudden, I heard, ooh, 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 ooh. A destroyer pulled right up alongside of us. And then they stayed for a while, and then veered off, gone, never saw them. As you look across the ocean, the waves, you can't see them anymore. You can't see them until they're on you. So you do have protection.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not going to send a convoy over there without protection.
So you were going to Island X. What is Island X?
Excuse me?
What is Island X?
I don't know.
Was that a code word for New Zealand, or was that a code word for Iwo Jima?
No, we never used a code word for Iwo Jima.
Okay.
No, I don't know where, if that, I don't, we knew all the islands. They were named, because we weren't heading for an invasion yet. But, when we packed up and left New Zealand, we were ready for combat. But our job was to knock out tanks. And on the islands, tanks didn't do very well. They went down in the mud. And so they used them for artillery. So how were we going to make up by going in there? We had half tracks, and that wouldn't work. So they broke us up. They felt we weren't needed. Went back to the States and formed the 5th Marine Division.
Okay. So
That's when we formed the 5th Division.
So you went to New Zealand first,
Yeah,
then
the first one was the Anti-Tank Battalion.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went on 2 tours. And then the next time we were ready, we went to New Zealand. And we stayed there and trained for a while, then loaded up and got around Honolulu, went all through the channel, on our way to Saipan, got off of that and loaded LSTs, which had 6 amphibious tractors down below. That was going to take us to combat. And we took off for 2 weeks, and one morning we woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, we're banging away, and airplanes flying, and we were right in a battle. And about 2 miles away was Mount Suribachi. And we saw that mountain. We could see it. And the Navy and the Air Force hammered that thing. It was a cloud of smoke all over the place.
Before we get there, when did you become a flamethrower?
I was issued a flamethrower to begin with in the 5th Division because that's what we were going to train for. My job was, of course, to knock out pillboxes, fortifications, burn them out.
What does a flamethrower carry in combat?
5 gallons of fuel, oil, gasoline mixture, a lot of fire. No napalm. Napalm's a jelly and it throws chunks like that and burns. We didn't use that. The tanks used that.
Okay.
And they could shoot it way out.
How far did you carry a sidearm at all, or?
I carried a .45 because I couldn't carry a rifle. Because that gun is about that long.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about how much distance could you get with a flamethrower?
How far would it go?
Yeah.
I would say with a straight shot, full force, you probably get 65, 70 feet.
Wow,
Right in
that's
there. Oh, yeah. But it wouldn't be as effective if you burst in the entrances, because you're going into an open cave. There's always an entrance, and you blow fire in there. Just blow a couple of bursts like that. You have 6 to 7 bursts. That's all you've got. If you held the trigger back in 15 seconds, you're empty.
That's it?
That quick.
Wow.
So you have to learn to swoosh. Swoosh. That's it. You got about 5 or 6 like that. 5 gallons gone. Yeah.
Wow. How many?
2.5 in this tank, 2.5 in that tank. The pressure tank was in the middle. Yeah.
So there's 3 tanks.
Yeah, well, it's 3 cylinders.
Okay.
Yeah. That middle one was reinforced steel. And the other tanks were close to it. The only thing that I would think of is if they shot me from the back and a round hit between the tanks, it would get right through in my back. But if it hit those, they were oval, so it would probably ricochet off.
Interesting. Let's talk about the gourmet breakfasts The morning of the invasion.
The gourmet breakfast. We got up in the morning, and they had chow on top side. They brought it up because the amphibious tractors are down there. We had to live on that thing for 2 weeks. On top, on a blanket, that was it. And we had to leave the blankets there when we got off. And all of a sudden, every now and then we'd see a Jap Zero in one of our planes fight overhead. We'd see that. And then the shells from the warship, the battleships and that, you could hear them shoo, 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 like that, and then we'd watch where it would hit. Anyway, they brought the chow up, and we had steak and eggs. I never had a steak in the Marine Corps. I had a lot of eggs, but not a steak. So we're standing there eating at makeshift tables, and I said to this kid next to me, I said, "Hey, buddy," I said, "what's with the steak and eggs?" He said, "Graves, think about it. What do they do with convicts before they execute them?" That's the kind of humor we had going into battle. It's crazy. But that's where we were. Until we got in it. And it was reality.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, we passed by a transport, and the Navies were up on the bow waiting for us to go by, And they'd have a cup of coffee, and they'd say, "Give it to them there, Marine. Give it to them." They would nice. "Give me a cup." No.
Did they give you a mission brief before you went in?
Give us what?
A mission brief? Did they?
Yes. Oh, yes. We had briefing.
What did they tell you?
They said, "If you can take a prisoner, take him. We don't know a thing about this island. We know it's 8 square miles. We have an estimate of 22,000 Japanese soldiers on it."
22,000.
22,000. Yes.
How many Marines were going in?
That would be 65,000. 3 divisions. There's 20,000 in a division. Well, 20, 40, 60.
So 60,000 Marines took
Yeah.
22,000
Yes.
Japanese at
Yep.
Iwo Jima.
Can you imagine on 8 square miles?
No.
But you see, they fought underground, then came up, fired, and went back down underground. So they weren't actually fighting on top side,
Why did we want to invade Iwo Jima?
Iwo Jima lie in the way, in the path of Saipan, our B-52, B-52. Is that
Bombers?
Right? Yeah, 52s were there. And, excuse me, B-29s. The B-29s were there, and they went direct flights there to Tokyo, dropped their bombs, and had to get back to Saipan. The Corsairs that from Saipan could not travel that far. They ran out of fuel. So they wanted to have that island for a place to land in case they were hit. And also, the P-51 would meet them, take them there, and take them all the way back to Saipan. It traveled that far.
Okay.
The P-51s. So Roosevelt designed this. That was his idea. And I thought it was a costly thing, but when it was all over, we saved 29,000 Air Force personnel in some of our planes.
Wow. What was the mission brief? When they told you,
What did they tell us?
what did they tell you?
Well, number one, if you can take a prisoner, take him. If you can't, you kill him. That was just primary. That was it. Because what could they tell us? They tried to talk about the airstrips that were fortified, but they really didn't know. I mean, it was just a lot of guesswork. So I think that we were surprised an awful lot as we fought on that island. We were surprised.
So you landed.
They had a 500. They had it at Camp Pendleton. I don't know if it's still there. They had it out in front on display. but they had made something like a 500 mg rocket, and when it launched, it went like that, and you could see it. You could see it, and it would drop and blow up. It was a rugged thing. It could only go short, but it could go all over the 8 square miles. And that was the thing that we tried to find. We could never find it. Well, what happened was we were told that we were going to, well, see, I'm going too fast because we had left Suribachi, gone to Hill 362A. We lost our battalion there. And my job the next morning was to turn my flamethrower in, grab demolition, and another man and I, we went up and we fixed a shape charge to drop that top in because that's where they were firing out of on our battalion. And when we reached the top, I counted roughly 50 Japanese dead soldiers on top of that island. And we had to crawl over them to get to the mouth of the cave. And we set that thing off, and it billowed with fire, just bellowed inside. And then it was over. That seemed to stop them, but they went to the north. They just went underground to the north. That's what they did.
Well, Don, let's start at the very beginning. So, you landed. You arrived at Iwo Jima on the USS Missoula, correct?
Yes.
Landed on D-Day, the third wave onto the beach.
February 19th, 8 o'clock in the morning.
And the mission was to secure Mount Suribachi.
Yes.
The mission was supposed to last 2 weeks and wound up lasting 6 weeks. Japanese had underground bunkers called pillboxes. You were a flamethrower. Let's just step by step from the brief to loading up the insertion on the beach. What was it like on the insertion to the beach?
I had 2 men, one on my left and one on my right. We were pretty well much alone. We didn't wait for anybody else. We just kept doing our job, bellowing, firing what we thought they might be in, then we'd move along.
Were they shooting at you before you landed?
This is where the 2 men come in also. If they come now a lot of them are on fire and come running out. Bang, bang, we drop them. They would kill them right there. If they would come up with their hands up in that, then we would call for support, and they'd send a bunch of people up there and grab them. But it was a different kind of a fight. We never fought like that on an island before. And Iwo Jima was all volcanic, so they had to tunnel in everywhere they went, and it was solid and hard, to get in and stay in. They lived in it. They lived in there for 2 years before we came. So the idea was to block them up if we could, and the only way we could do it was to close it in. Now, the engineers followed us. We would do our best to get them out. And then when we left, they'd come along, blow the thing in. Dynamite it.
Can you describe how long it took you to get from the beach to the tunnels, to the pillboxes?
It took, from the top of the beach was 575 feet to Mount Suribachi. We got there the 3rd day.
Wow.
3rd day. They come at us at nighttime, but during the day they threw everything they had on us because they're right down on us. They can look, they could see us. That's why my skipper, when he took a round, right, bad place, he crawled up behind that rock and they couldn't get him. And he lit up a cigarette, and that was it till we found him.
What did he say?
Yeah. When we reached the base finally, we had a hand fight with hand grenades, but they were throwing them down on us, but we couldn't throw up. Now, normally we can grab, if we're fast enough, we'll grab that hand grenade, we'll throw it right back at them. Their own, and it'll get them. But we couldn't do it. We couldn't throw them uphill. That's quite a long ways up there. So what we did is we secured the base, blew them out of there, Just did everything. We got them out of there. They went down in the cave and went down below Mount Suribachi. Some of them came up to the top there, and then our patrol that went up with this flag that my battalion commander gave them to put up, they killed a few of them up there anyway. Yeah.
Were there planes? Can you describe the scene a little bit? Was there planes above? Were there how much
when
shooting?
We fought, no, they did not come because they'd be hitting us, you know.
So it was all man on man.
We gave them word that we're mopping up Suribachi right now. Don't be coming on to us. So they did not come.
So it was just
well, we
ground
wouldn't let them
forces.
come. We didn't want them to come because we were all over that place. They had a battalion of men. Well, I'll tell you, when we left Suribachi, we didn't have a battalion. And when we got to Hill 362A, that was a bloody thing. It just hammered the daylights out of us. I almost cried. I was off to the side with the flamethrower. If they get me, I'm chopped liver. That's all there is to it. They got my squad leader. They tortured him. They found his body. So I took over the squad. But then I lost the squad. So I mean, it was just a bloody, confused battle. We didn't know what to really expect because nobody knew anything about the island. It was kept secret.
How many friends did you have die there?
How many?
How many friends did you have die there?
I had a kid, Orville Caribou was his name. We went to school together in Detroit. We went to school together, and he was a rifleman. He was killed on Hill 362A. I had about 3 or 4 good buddies there that were killed. We lost our officers. None of them came out of there. So we fought to the north end, and by the time we got to the north end, we held it right there because we had them down by the water. We had about a week to go because we knew we would be fighting 6 weeks there. So we had about a week to go, and we would have it all done. And they would come at us at night and then go hunker back down on the beach by the water. They can go swim. Our ships, our boats would take them up, pick them off, or they could come at us, and eventually we'd wipe them out because we killed like 200-300 every night at a banzai charge. I think we were fortunate. I don't know in my battalion of anybody that really got killed by a banzai charge unless it was hand grenades. But bodily, they did not get to us, and that's what we were really afraid of, bayonet fighting. We didn't want that to happen, but we were ready. If we had to, you know, but that never happened because we could kill them before they got right to us. Yeah.
How long did it take for you to see the first Marine killed in action?
I didn't quite get the question.
How long did it take for you to see the first Marine killed in action at Iwo Jima?
Not long at all. When I hit the beach, I lay face down. I had these 2 boys with me. We were scared to death. John Bass alone, Medal of Honor, Guadalcanal, the first one. He was killed right to our right, never got up. 3 kids ahead of me were already dead. There were bodies laying all over the beach, and we had to crawl over those bodies to move to the top. But it was hard getting to the top because nobody could get off the thing. Every time you'd get up to move and run, and when we got it, they had it all. They plowed up the volcanic ash loose, 2.5, 3 feet of it, and it would sink right up to here, right up to your calf, and then you had to get your leg out. Well, I had a flamethrower on. Well, by the time I reached the top, I lost my 2 buddies. They weren't with me anymore. So I went the first night of that battle, I was alone.
Oh.
In a hole, too. It was a mess. It was really a mess, a disaster. That's the problem of going on these islands you don't know anything about. You don't know what to expect.
When is the first time you fired your flamethrower in battle?
First time on the way to Suribachi, yeah. I pretty well burned my way right through to the base. And by that time, I was the only one left in my outfit. They were wounded or killed.
Can you describe the first time you used the flamethrower in battle?
Well, when I reached the base, they were it was funny. They had it's all cleared out now, but they had big boulders placed there, and so the entrance to the cave to the mountain was behind them, and this protected them. So they were in between, but you could see their head moving back and forth. You could see it, and we couldn't get them. A buddy of mine yelled over, "Graves, come on over here." And I walked over and had my flamethrower on my back. "See if you can get him. I can't get him." So he held the gun on my gun, flamethrower, and I took the bar, and I'm firing away, and I'm chipping the rock right at the guy's head. We hit the top of the rock, but we couldn't get him. And then he'd move over here. We tried. That went on and on and on. So finally what we did is we called for air power. And our Marine planes came in, and they strafed the daylights out of that thing. Well, they did kill a few, but a few of them went right back in the caves. But we wanted to get that done before dark. We had to get that thing wiped out before dark. That was a bad place to be. The problem is they came out at night and fought. That was the general's way of doing things. Hunker down during the day, let them have their fun, and then hit them at night. But they paid a price for it every night. We were ready. Yeah.
How would they fight you at night?
How was the fight at night? Scary. Screaming, yelling. I had one Japanese with a bag on his side, hand grenades. All he was doing was, he was drunk around sake. They had sake in the caves like crazy. They let them drink. I mean, anything to keep going, you know. And they had drugs. And, I mean, talking and mumbling to themselves. One came at us with that bag of hand grenades, started throwing them. One lobbed down in the hole. And normally, if you grab it, you can throw it back at him. But there's no way in the world we could get that hand grenade. I picked it, tossed it up. It hit the top of the bank and rolled back in. I said, "Out! A grenade!" We all cleared the hole. One fella, and he was a married man, one of the replacements. His 1 foot stayed in, and it went off, and it tore his foot off. It was hanging by his skin. And, man, we screamed for stretcher bearer, stretcher bearer. Well, they brought a stretcher bearer over to us. And we got him on there, but his foot was hanging off, you know, on the side. He didn't know it. I didn't say anything about it. But I broke down crying. I lost it. If he could have pulled both legs out of there. And he said, "Don't worry about it, Don. I'm going home." And he did. Yeah. Hairy nights.
Sounds like it.
Then we get up in the morning, have to go out and count them. Yeah. Make sure they're dead. Not a good job. And, you know, they were just like us, young teenagers, 20s, young ones. Only young men can fight wars. We learned that. Older men cannot fight wars. Their mind's different. We were brainwashed. For good. Got us home. Got us killed.
Yeah.
That's war. And you've got to be trained to go in. You have to be trained.
What did it feel like to engage the enemy for the first time?
First time in combat?
Yeah.
A lot of screaming. Screaming and yelling. On both sides. It's just a lot of screaming and yelling, you know. They're as afraid as we are, but it was either that or they'd be shot. No surrender until later. On Okinawa, they surrendered.
Can you describe what it was like to shoot the flamethrower? Was it bursts? Was it one long
On a body?
sweep?
You know, at first, if the fire was just on their back, like, they would run. They just, I suppose they're out of their minds, but they would run, and of course our rifleman would pick them off, you know. But it's just it's a tormenting. It hangs. Of course, it sticks on your clothes first and then burns. Well, then you know it's coming. It's going right through the clothes in your body, in their face. You know, some surrendered had faces burned. Some of their bodies, and they didn't wear. It was hot on there during the day, and they wear these little briefs, or I call them diapers. There's a word for it, but I don't know what it was. I call them diapers. And they would be coming out, running out of the caves with those diapers. It was hot in those, it was smelly, terrible in those caves. Lice, they were full of, we had to spray them prisoners. We fumigated them. It was terrible, sprayed them. Or it was spread like wildfire. Put them in a compound. Never touched them.
When you would shoot somebody with a flamethrower, how long would they be on fire?
Pardon?
When you would shoot somebody with a flamethrower, how long would they be on fire?
How long would the fire last?
Yes.
Like I say, if you're going to do burst, which you should, throw a burst, see what happens. Nothing, throw another burst, and then move on. But you wouldn't pull the trigger back until you emptied it, because you only got 15, 16 seconds. You're out.
Yeah.
You're gone. But if you do it in bursts, you got about 5 or 6 shots. That's not much, but when you stop to think, one shot could do a lot of damage.
Yeah. How many people could you engulf
It's hard
in
to
flames?
tell. Because they're all in a cave, you don't know. You hear a lot of yelling. They yell all the time. They try and scare you with yelling. They scream and yell at you when they come at you. So you know, it all sounds the same, you know. I don't know what the engineers found, whether they were all burned up or not. We don't know. But you have to move. You can't stand there. You move.
Don, let's talk about some foxhole stories.
The foxhole stories.
So I heard that we have a very similar saying, no atheists are in foxholes.
That's right.
Can you describe that?
If a person, we've had kids, and I think every war has them. We've had kids say, I'm looking out for myself. If I get killed, it's my fault. That's the end of it. Some of them will say, I'm going to hope God will help me get through this battle. No atheists in foxholes, though. I've seen them yell and scream and help. Oh, God, help me. I've heard it time and time again. And they won't tell you, but they'll pray. You can see they're praying, but they would never tell you. And you don't bother them. When you know a man might be praying, you leave him alone. You never say a thing to him. You don't question him. But that started on Guadalcanal. No atheists in foxholes.
Really?
And it spread to other battles.
I used that expression several times in battle.
What's that?
I said I've used that expression several times in battle. But you made a deal with God on that island.
I made a deal with God. I made a pledge. I broke the pledge. But God understood the whole situation. When I hit the beach, I was terrified. I had my face right down on the sand. I was so scared. Everything. The screaming and the yelling. I just said, Lord, I don't know much about you at all. I know you exist. I know you are. And if you could help me and get me out of this, I don't know, serve you the rest of my life. And I got a hunch there were a lot of kids on that beach praying too. Where else would you go? What would you do? Well, to make it real short, he got me off that island in 6 weeks. He never really got me until 9 years later. That was 9 years after the war. I had something happen to me that I felt so ashamed. We were on the north end. We had about 2 weeks to go. They finally pulled a big bonsai on us. And it's funny. In the daytime, you don't see anything. You don't see anything at all. At 2 o'clock in the morning, that's when it happened. When you can't, you're fighting sleep, and that's when they start blowing horns and bells. They're all screaming and yelling. They're coming at you, and you do your best. You want to make every shot count, and yes, a few of us would get it, but we would just kill them, knock them all down, lay them down. Well, what happened? We stayed in that hole that night, and the next morning, there were 3 of us. We made it, got through it. And I got word that I was to be looking for snipers. So I got up and I took my glasses on the ground like my elbows, and I'm looking around. I couldn't see a thing. It was all quiet. Couldn't spot a thing. I was there about 15 minutes, and I dropped back down. And I said, there's nothing going on out there. So I phoned in and I told them, no snipers. They said, keep looking because they know where we're at. They're shooting us back up here. I said, 10-4. By the way, he said, you've got a kid coming for your replacement. I said, we can use him. And so finally, the kid yelled over the hole, who's Graves? And I said, I am. Come on in here. And he jumped in the hole, and he said, what do you want me to do? And I said, sit down over there. You have a lot to do later on tonight. I said, well, I got to be looking. And he said, Grace, give me the glasses. I'll look. I said, no, you get yourself killed. One of my buddies says, give him your glasses. That's what he's here for. I threw the glasses at him. He got up, and we're shooting the breeze. He's up there looking. Then all of a sudden, phew, he fell back. His helmet rolled off between my feet. When it stopped, I looked down in the helmet. I was shocked. All 3 of us, we were just stunned. We didn't expect that. That sniper thought that was me. He was ready for me. And there was a beautiful girl sitting in a chair, and on her lap was a baby. I lost it. I got up and screamed and yelled and shook my fist in the air and said, curse Iwo Jima, curse God for letting that kid take my place. See, I didn't understand. And yet days before I was praying for help. Well, we phoned in and told them what happened. We got into another hole. And same story until the end, and all of a sudden nothing was happening. They were down there by the water, and it was either come at us and die or go in the water and be shot in the water. Either way. We don't know what happened, but we were released by the 3rd Division. 18 of us walked down to the cemetery.
Let's take a quick break.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. A lot of you know that we talk about mental health consistently on this channel. And I've personally disclosed my mental health issues after leaving the military and a career at CIA, combating all that comes with going to war. I came back home. I got myself into therapy. It was a tough time, but I was able to redirect my entire life onto a better trajectory. I give therapy a lot of credit. And that's why I want to talk to you about BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Sean today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Sean.
I want to give a big thank you out right now to all the Vigilance Elite patrons out there that are watching the show right now. Just want to say thank you guys. You are our top supporters and you're what makes this show actually happen. If you're not on Vigilance Elite Patreon, I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on in there. So, we do a little bit of everything. There's plenty of behind-the-scenes content from the actual Sean Ryan show. On top of that, basically what I do is I take a lot of the questions that I get from you guys, or the patrons, and then I turn them into videos. So we get, right now, there's a lot of concern about self-defense, home defense, crimes on the rise, all throughout the country, actually all throughout the world. And so we talk about everything from how to prep your home, how to clear your home, how to get familiar with a firearm, both rifle and pistol, for beginners and advanced. We talk about mindset, we talk about defensive driving. We have an end of the month live chat that I'm on at the end of every month where we can talk about whatever topics you guys have. It's actually done on Zoom. You might enjoy it, check it out. And if Zoom's not your thing, or you don't like live chats, like I said, there's a library of well over 100 videos on where to start with prepping, all the firearm stuff, pretty much anything you can think of, it's on there. So anyways, go to www.patreon.com/vigilanceelite, or just go in the link in the description. It'll take you right there. And if you don't want to, and you just want to continue to watch the show, that's fine too. I appreciate it either way. Love you all. Let's get back to the show. Thank you.
All right, Don, so we're going to start to wrap up your time in Iwo Jima. And I just got a couple of stories that I heard you talk about last night at dinner that I'd like to expound upon. But let's talk about making hot chocolate in foxholes.
Hot chocolate. Everybody, if I'm speaking eventually, someone is going to say, Don, do you have any interesting stories? And some say, tell the hot chocolate. I don't like the hot chocolate, but I'll do it. We're sitting, waiting, nothing happening all day. I said, I feel like hot chocolate. And the other two guys says, well, make enough for three of us. So we have ration bar, chocolate bars when they drop off rations, you know. And we dice up that D bar. Did you ever see one? A D bar?
I haven't.
Chocolate? It was a combat bar, bittersweet. And I chopped it all up, we got our canteen water in there. I made a pretty good batch. I lit some demolition underneath, beautiful, nice blue fire. And we sat and shot in the breeze, watching, keeping our eyes open, looking around. And all of a sudden, you could smell it. It smelled good. Then all of a sudden, I heard a voice, Hey, Marine, very good chocolatto. You bring chocolatto here. I said, if you want chocolate, you come and get it. Oh, no, you bring here.
Did they come and get
some? The guys
some?
down the line be laughing. Then they'd say, well, send it down to us. To heck with him. I'd get your own darn chocolate bar out.
Don, how long did it take you to fill up or to heat up a glass of hot chocolate being a flamethrower?
It took about 20 minutes to a half hour.
Okay. All right. So we're getting close towards the end of the battle here. And there is a famous photograph of some Marines lifting a flag up on Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
Can you go into that a little bit?
That flag going up That was never in the program. That was never planned out. Not as far as we were concerned on the Anna. We didn't know about putting the flag up. It just was never discussed. What happened was my battalion commander, Chandler Johnson, aboard ship on a transport going to Saipan from Hawaii, he stayed up with the skipper of the ship. And when we were getting ready to embark, why, he said, Colonel, he said, take this flag, he said, and see if you can get someone to put it up for me. I'd like to see that flag go up, wherever you can put it up. And so Johnson said, okay, I'll do that. I liked my battalion commander. He knew me real well. We got along real good. He put me in the brig 3 times.
Sounds like a hell of a guy.
Insubordination, I came in late from Liberty. Well, anyway, he gave that to Harold Schreier, Lieutenant Schreier, that led the patrol up. He just gathered some guys together, and when they got up there, they shot a few Japanese up. They had a little skirmish up there, but they beat them. And then it's like I said last night, that was drain pipe that flag was put on. People don't know that. We had no pole for a flag. We didn't know anything about a flag going up on the mountain. So they found this drain pipe and they put it together. And the Japanese used it to get rainwater down in the cave below because they couldn't remake their water. They couldn't purify it like we did. We purified our water, so we always had plenty of it. Didn't taste too good, but it was pure. And so they got the flag all rigged up, and we're through fighting, so we're walking right to the top. And when we get up to the crest and stand there, from here to that wall, there it goes up. Man, it was a shock. And everybody saw that flag go up out in the bay, all those ships out there let go in the air with tracers and rockets. And our boys that were on the north fighting with the airstrip while we're doing Suribachi, they started opening up with tracers. It was just like a spectacle. It infuriated the Japanese. They fought twice as hard. We put our flag on Japanese soil for the first time in history. Yep.
How far were you from that flag?
Well, from here, that picture on the wall.
About 20 feet?
Yeah.
10, 20 feet?
About 20 feet, yeah.
That's incredible. What did that feel like watching that?
Some say just within a few feet. They always do that. They exaggerate.
Yeah.
No, I'd say about that distance right there.
What was the conversation like as the flag was going up?
Nothing, quiet.
Dead silence.
They just backed off like this. Well, if you've seen the picture, you'll see when they raise it, well, they're going like this. But it was a shock to all of us. But boy, when it went up and waved, oh gosh, it was a glorious looking sight. It was. We conquered that island. Cost. I went up 8 years later. I went up there. We rode up this time. Around the back, they got a road put up. And we stood there. There's 2 flagpoles. Beautiful poles. Bronze top. On the first pole is a Japanese flag. On this pole is the ball. No flag. We looked at that. I think there were 2 or 3 of us that fought up there. And we said, this makes me sick. And the gal that brought us said, fellas, not to worry. She got under a big duffel bag and pulled out a flag that was about 5 or 6 feet long. We opened that flag up and held it up, and everybody photographers took pictures of it. We put the flag back up there.
Good.
That was the end of that.
Did that signify the end of that battle?
Pardon?
When the flag went up the first time.
Then it was over. It was over on Suribachi. Well, not. It was over on the mountain. That was the finish of the mountain. we still had the north to go. Yeah.
Just a couple more things. I heard a story about you singing God Bless America,
Yeah.
and the Japanese wanted you
Yeah.
to sing it again.
We were it was on the north end again, and we were sitting in the hole. They said, "Graves, give us a song," and I said, "Oh, I'm going to do something I bet you guys forget about." And I said, "What's that? God Bless America?" "No, we heard that, so sing it." So I sang it, and when I got done, there again I heard a voice saying, "Grave, America, Marine, very good sing. You sing again." And I said, "No more singing." He said, "Okay." Because we were afraid they might want to sink in where we were at by singing.
Mm-hmm.
So
You didn't wanna give
I
up?
didn't repeat it.
You didn't want to give up your location.
No, not a bit.
One last thing. Your skipper, Richard Allen, was wounded, bleeding. He got shot, correct?
What's that?
Your skipper, Richard Allen,
Yes, sir. My skipper, yeah.
he was shot.
Yeah, going towards Suribachi.
Was this at the very beginning?
Yeah, the very beginning. As soon as we got off the beach, Captain Allen was a energetic paratrooper. They broke him up, couldn't use him. And he came my company commander. But he waved his arms. Even when we maneuvered, he would wave his arm. "Get that patrol going." It's always, well, they're looking at him. I'm surprised. I told him one time we were training, "Skipper, you're going to get hit because you're waving your arms around." And he's, no, I've done that before. Well, that guy up on Suribachi sure took him and hit him right in the crotch.
Oh, man.
Right in the crotch. And he was bleeding. I said, "Skipper, you can't lose much more blood. We got to get you down the beach. Get out of here. Get up there." Oh, he was mad. "No, sir. We're going to drag you down on a poncho." I didn't go because I had my flamethrower, but a few of the guys did, and they got him down and then came back. I don't know what happened, but 45 years later, I saw him. Well, we had a great time together. It was in San Antonio. We had a reunion, 45th reunion, and he came.
45 years later.
45 years later, we had a reunion. We don't have many more. We don't have enough men to have one. That's all gone. But I was so glad to see him. And, I couldn't believe that he went through that. He said he was fine, but just, 2 years later, he died of cancer.
Oh, man.
Yes, cancer set in. We missed him good. We'd have followed him to hell and back. That's what we thought about him.
Did you have any questions for him when you saw him 45 years later?
Pardon?
Did you have any questions for him when you saw him 45
we
years
talked
later?
over a few things, yeah.
Did you happen to ask him why he made you a flamethrower, one of the smallest guys in the unit?
I asked him, I said, "Why did you put that flamethrower on my back, Skipper?" He said, "Graves, you're here, aren't you?" I know what he meant. Short.
Well, Don, your unit started with 335 Marines and left with only 18 from Iwo Jima.
In my company.
You were the only surviving flamethrower from the unit.
Yep.
You didn't sleep, brush your teeth, change your socks for 6 weeks.
When we got back and started training again with new men, I taught the flamethrower. I was the only one that taught the flamethrower. And I couldn't get these kids to pick it up. They wouldn't put it on. And for some reason or other, the lieutenants were standing right there, the platoon leaders, and they wouldn't say anything. So there's something about it that you can't force a man to use something like that. He has to want to do it. Because they banded that, They called that gas, same as gas and that.
Yeah. I know they did.
Banned it, you know.
In fact, I was actually going to bring that up in the interview. Do you know what they would do to a guy like me if I used a flamethrower in combat today? I'd probably be in prison.
Yeah.
It's crazy how things have changed,
Yeah.
isn't it? But you have a quote. As the greatest generation, we fought that battle so Americans would not be speaking German and Japanese today. And that's your
Absolutely.
quote.
You bet. We said that too. We won't be running around kids having Japanese language. We're Americans.
So what was it like? You left Iwo Jima, you come back home to the U.S.
Wasn't the same.
It wasn't.
It's never the same. It is never the same. Even when I come home after the war, it was totally different. I don't know what there is about it. You know, we've seen movies on that where men return home, you know, and he just can't settle in. He doesn't speak their language anymore. They sure don't know what he's talking about, you know. Our convictions are different. No, I think that we were affected by, we were brainwashed. And that's what you have to be if you're going to face the enemy. You get so much training, you know this, that it trains your mind to thinking. You yield to him. That's the way it is. Kill or be killed. Do everything you can to kill him, or he'll kill you. That's training. And that's what training is supposed to do. You're different. It isn't that you don't love your family, it's just that they don't sympathize with you. If you expect to get a little pity from your family, forget about it. You would think you'd get it. Yeah. Well, the war is over. Everybody's going back to work now. They're getting rid of war assembly.
Did that bother you?
Not really. No, not really.
Well, Don, a lot of veterans today have problems readjusting back into civilian life. What were your struggles adjusting back into civilian life back then?
I have to tell you this. This post...
Traumatic stress.
Yes, stress. We never had that. Every now and then, at least 4 of us would get together that fought from Detroit. We made it back. Some were replacements. And we never had that. We got together and talked old Marine stuff over again, hashed it over again. We couldn't adjust because we were thinking different. You know, our lives were different. You know, they had 4 years of us, and they brainwashed us. Might as well admit it. Everything was Marine Corps. Our talk was all Marine talk. I still use it. And another Marine will understand what you're talking about, too, you know, with some of the stuff you really bring up. They know what you're saying. You'll never forget it. It's a brainwash, but it's got to be, that's training. Train to kill the enemy. Hate him. And so you carry that stuff with you. But it's, I will say this, I guess I had a couple of nightmares after I was home for a week or two. My mother said that she had to wake me up. And I said, you did? She said, yeah, you were moaning and groaning and yelling. And then she said, who's such and such? I said, well, why you ask that? Because you were yelling his name out. I said, what was the name? And then I knew who she was talking about. So I might have been doing it, you know, yeah. But it didn't last long. That's all we had. But you just have to calm down and adjust to people. These are different people. They're your people, your family. The Marine Corps had you for 4 years.
Did they have a lot of questions for you?
No, they're afraid to ask questions.
What about your father?
No, my dad didn't say much, no.
Was he proud of you?
Yeah, when he was drinking, he'd sit down with my brother. My brother was in the Navy. he got out a little after me. And we'd talk war stuff when he was drinking. Sober, he wouldn't talk. He wouldn't carry a conversation. I could never understand him. My brother went right after him and died.
What do you mean?
Alcohol, tobacco, all that stuff. He just went right at it. My oldest boy started smoking, got on reeds, dope, alcohol. Everybody loved that guy. He just ruined his life. Died.
That was your
He went
brother?
in the Army. He went in the Army for 2 years, and they canned him out because he got in a fist fight drunk, and they busted his spleen.
Who was this?
My son.
Your son.
It's that same oldest boy. Yeah, and after he got out, he went right at it.
Oh, I'm sorry to
Couldn't do
hear
a
that.
thing with him. I talked to people who knew what they were doing. Leave him alone, Don. You can't make him do it. You'll just drive him further. You just can't. It's an unfortunate thing. You just hope that he'll grow out of it, but he didn't. I was in the ministry at the time when that happened. Preacher, my boy in jail. I had to go go talk to him, try and get him out. I went to court when they summoned him. They gave him 3 weeks in jail. They said the judge suspended the fine. Here I am. I'm sitting there. The attorney said, "We have his mother and father here with us today." And the judge said, "Hello, folks," and I don't think the judge did, but people were looking at us and say, "You should take care of your son. What the heck went around?" Can't do anything about it. He picks his company. He picks it. I always tell him, I've told my grandsons, don't follow anybody. Pick your company. Pick someone that you agree with. Don't go following people around because they say it's a good thing to do. Yeah. But every war you have, look at Vietnam. It's affected a lot of them. Jungle fighting. That's the last of the jungle fighting. Desert now. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any advice for the men and women coming home from war today?
For them what?
For the men and women coming home from war today, do you have any advice for them?
You know, it would depend on what they've done, what they've seen, what they had to do, you know, so it's very difficult that way. And that fighting today is not the way we fought. And I've talked to these kids, I speak to them every now and then. They had no incentive to fight. They knew, what are we doing? They'll still fight when we leave here. I mean, it's been going on for 2,000 years, for heaven's sakes. Just read the Old Testament. Arabs, Arabian countries, trying to take one tribe over another. They don't get along. They never will. So it depends on what kind of a battle. No, China. I'll tell you, the next war is with China. I can tell you right out flat right now, and something's going to happen. We might wake up some morning and find out what's going on because I know he's going to try something with that Navy. They're bragging about that Navy and that Air Force. They don't have much of an Air Force. We've got an Air Force. We got a good one. I've got a Major General. He's a buddy of mine, and he's a crackerjack. He said, "Don, I can't tell you too much, but I will tell you this. We have got the Air Force."
Well, that's good to hear. So what did you do when you got home from war?
Pardon?
What did you do when you got home from war?
From the war?
Yeah.
Well, you have a few bucks, you know. Michigan gave every veteran returning home a $750 check. I went and bought a car.
What kind of
Only
car?
it cost me twice as much. For $1,475 for a 1941 Club Coupe Ford, which sold for $750. Brand new. They had us, boy, they stuck it to us, I'm telling you. We all went on and bought cars. We paid right through the nose.
When did you start the ministry?
That happened, let's see. Well, I can tell you, it was May 15th, 1954. I was at a Billy Graham meeting. And I was converted there, my wife and I. And then I got back, when we got back home and got settled in again, I met 5 men from the Gideons International. And they wanted me to become a Gideon, and I did. I became the state chaplain for Wisconsin.
Really?
For a couple of years, yeah. But after that, well, I really wanted to get into Bible teaching, so I had an opportunity to take a church. And I had 5 churches, and 5 churches, and I spent 29 years in the ministry, 32 doing Christian work.
Wow.
I still speak in churches. 2 weeks ago, I had one. Yeah.
What do you speak about?
I speak about the Bible. I teach the Bible. I speak about what our lives should be from what it was, if that need be.
Do you have a favorite verse?
Huh?
Do you have a favorite verse?
Absolutely. Nahum 1:7. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. He knew what I was doing. All those 9 years. Then he said to me, it's time. And I went through all of that. God is patient. One day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. He doesn't care. He doesn't have a clock. We have the clock.
Did you struggle with alcohol at all when you got home?
I never struggled with it, but I knew that the first time I got in alcohol, it was before I was a Christian. I know, not really. I was a party drinker. I'm still a party drinker. I don't drink. Two drinks is mine. It depends on who you're with. I may go to a third one, but 2 is that's my limit. I know what it can do. I've been there. I've seen my family. I've seen my sons. I've seen my aunt and uncles. So, I mean, when her and I go to meetings and that or something, every now and then we'll have. She likes wine. I like a highball. We'll have 2 drinks apiece and bingo. That's it.
Where did you meet your wife?
Huh?
Where did you meet your wife?
It was funny. My buddy we grew up together, Alan Wells. He went off to seagoing Marine, aboard a battleship, South Dakota. He was on that during the war. And I didn't know Chuck, my wife's brother. He was a friend of Alan, but I didn't know him. But after the war, all of us, all 3 were in the Corps. For some reason or other, her brother was dismissed from the Marine Corps. I don't know why. I never did find out. He never talked about it. And so he had gone through boot camp and spent a few months in regular service, and something happened. I don't know what it was. I never did find out. But Alan, he went through the war. He went through the last 2.5 years of the war. Both of them were younger than me. And so Chuck and I used to go out, and we'd go out on Saturday night, go to dances or roller skate. We'd do all that stuff together. He never told me he had a sister. So one day, he said, come on with me, I got to go home and change clothes. So I went with him, and he had the car, and I sat in the front room, and in comes this girl. She was 17 at the time. She come home from work, quit school. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and all of a sudden she started rolling her eyes at me. She always did that, tried to get me, talk me into things, you know how women are. I said, Charlie, you didn't tell me you had a cute sister. He says, you didn't ask. I said, gee, do I have to ask? Don't you love your sister? Anyway, we dated, and we got married. After 5 years, we finally started having children, and we had them 4 in a row.
4 in a row?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
How many boys, how
2
many
girls
girls?
and 2 boys. Yep. But I suffered a lot for all those years. And when I say that, I'm not saying that she shouldn't have been pitied and felt sorry for. I didn't know what was wrong with that woman, but it was strange. We'd be packed up and going on vacation. We'd get out of town. She'd say, what are we doing? I said, we're going on vacation. I don't want to go. I'm going to go home. Kids would start crying. I went through that for 72 years.
Oh, wow.
When she died, I don't even want to go, but she just fell apart. She had a lot of, like poor kid, heart trouble, all kinds of trouble. Her arteries were so plaqued and so bad that it wasn't getting blood through. It wasn't all cholesterol. And so when he did 4 bypass, he had to use her veins. He couldn't use the arteries. And so, you know how much blood she got. So her pulse rate would drop. They put a monitor on. That didn't work. She died. Well, I walked in the nursing home. I had her in for 6 months, the nursing home, and they were working with her. And I said, what's going on? She went down. She said, she passed away this morning. She fell down. We were giving her a shower, and she just passed out in the wheelchair. And we couldn't bring her to. I don't think she said, she's not even pumping 40 on the pulse rate.
Oh, man.
And so she's not going to go through the night. So I said, well, she's been wanting to go. And it was no good laying in bed like that. Well, my kids, my daughters came and we sat. And my son was working, my other boy. And about 2 o'clock the next day, she took her last breath. Boom. I said, that's it. She's gone. Yep. I never understood. Then the nurse said, Don, can you come down to the station? I want to talk to you. I said, sure. And I walked down, and she said, the doctor and I interviewed Rebecca. We found out something. And did you know that she was bipolar? Alzheimer's. I said, no, I never thought about it. But that explains why these all these disruptions, you know. You make plans, then she changes them. That's what they do. But she said she definitely had bipolar. I said, well, thanks for telling me, because that helps out a lot. I don't blame her for anything. I think of her when we did the good things, the good times. That was it. Poor girl, and she had low self-esteem. My son took it from her. Low self-esteem. She threatened to kill herself several times.
Oh, man.
She never went through with it, though. I had a .22 caliber, beautiful pistol, holster, everything. I got it for $25. Brand new in those days, back in the 50s. I don't know what they cost now, but anyway, I went out, did a lot of squirrel hunting with it. I had a lot of fun with it. I kept it as security in the house. She came in the office with me. We managed a 60-unit HUD housing project for seniors. That was after I left the ministry. Just something to do and make money. And I don't know, she had one of her spells again, and she said, you know, Don, sometimes you get me so bad I want to find that gun and shoot myself in the head. She went shopping. I went in and got the gun out. I said, that's coming out of the apartment. And I took it down to the office and hid it in the desk. Well, then the elevator man came in, and we got to talking, and he's a nice guy, and we talked a little bit. I told him, I said, I had a little scare, and I said, I took it out of the apartment. I've got it on my desk right now. I'm afraid she might just go through with it, and an empty gun is no good. He said, you want to sell it? I sold it to him for $25. Regret it to this day. But I thought I had to, so I did.
How long was your wife in the nursing home?
Oh, 6 months.
6 months? How often would you go
Just a
see her?
vegetable. Twice a day. And she couldn't notice. She didn't know who I was. It was terrible. I'd walk in, she, who are you? I said, I'm your husband. I don't have a husband. You get out of here. Next day I come in, she said, hi, honey. It's crazy. You never knew what to expect. So that head nurse called me over one day, and she was right. She said, Don, are you crazy? I said, why? Why do you come in here twice? She doesn't even know what you're doing. Why don't you just come in once a day and see how she's doing? You don't have to do this. All you do is feel sorry and bad, and you leave that way. And she was right. I developed high blood pressure. I've never had high blood pressure my entire life. I was sitting and I felt good. They were taking her test, her blood pressure. This before things were very critical. And I hadn't had a blood test for good over a year. So I said, would you mind taking mine? She said, no, I'd like to. So she took my blood pressure. And when she's looking at it, she looked up at me and says, you need a doctor now. You're over 200. You need a doctor. Go now. I said, but Saturday, they're not open. Go to the emergency. I went to the emergency, told them what I wanted, and then they sat me around for a while. Finally, they called me in. The doctor said, what's the problem? I told him, he said, what do you think, Scott? He said, did you ever have high? I said, I've never had high blood pressure, never. He said, what do you think might have done that? And I told him about my wife. He said, that'll do it. Lay down. We'll get that down. And they got it down. Put me on Lisinopril, one of the first little pink ones. It keeps it checked. So I've been on them ever since. But the VA puts you on blood pressure when you're about 70. They put you on blood pressure pills. You ask them why, and they'll say keeps you from having a stroke. So I'm still on them. Blood pressure's beautiful. I have a good blood report. This is the only problem right there, my legs. That's the only problem I have.
Let's talk about the ministry a little bit. Is that the first thing that you did after war that you really liked to do?
Say that over again. What?
Let's talk about your ministry real quick. You did
Ministry?
29 years of ministry
Yep.
with your wife.
Yeah.
And 5 churches you opened, correct?
Pardon?
You opened 5 churches.
I served 5 churches, yes, but I had 7 years in the Gospel Rescue Mission in Tucson, Arizona. I taught, was their pastor and that. I just kept working, you know.
Did you enjoy that a lot?
I loved it. Yeah. I really did. I don't have a home church in Texas because they're all mega churches, big, mega. There are some Bible churches, but it's not my style. It's not what we did.
What's different today?
They have entertainment. You want entertainment? Go to church. I'm talking about Bible churches. You'll get all the entertainment you want. Singing, kids are up there in their knees sticking out of their overalls, and they're just drumming away on the guitars and everything, having a lot of fun. The girls are gyrate with a microphone in their hand. I don't want that. That's not what we're there for. We're there to learn the Bible, witness to people. That's what it should be for. You want to be entertained? Go to a theater. That's the way I feel.
Do you still do it?
Still do it, yep, whenever I can. I was asked to come to a Bible church up in Madison, just a town north of me. And we had a banquet there. They had a family get-together. So I spoke, sang. I had a good time, yeah. I still like to be with the people of God, you know. I love the Lord. I'm not perfect, but then I'm so happy the Bible says, none perfect, no, not one. All have come short of the glory of God. Some people think they're good. They're no good. No anybody else. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. I got to tell you a cute one. I had a man in my church, my first church. We became good friends. And he and his wife, they had 4 daughters. And girls will be girls just like boys will be boys. So we had to go away for a weekend, and his wife said, let her stay with my girls. They'll enjoy one another. And go ahead and go. So I did. When we came back, somehow this came up. I said, well, Charles told me that he and his wife never have a crossword. And she said, Daddy, that's not true. I was there. They fought. I never told him I knew. I said, no, wait a minute. What do you mean fought? Well, they were arguing. He told me they never had a crossword. He's a liar. That means he's not perfect.
Yeah. Well, Don, we had a lot of conversations last night at dinner, and about the direction the country's going.
When? Last night, you mean?
Yeah. Last night we had a lot of conversations about the direction of the country. You don't seem to approve where we're headed.
Howden?
You don't seem to approve where our country's headed.
We're nowhere. We're nowhere. The people are nowhere. We're not together. We're in a mess.
Where did you...
We have poor leadership. And those that say they're not that way are following along anyway to keep them arguing.
Where did you see the country change? When?
When did I see it change?
When did it start?
For the worse. I think that I saw this happen, say, around the 60s. Right in around the 60s. 50s were still good. 50s were pretty good. Bella Graham was going hot and heavy with his evangelism. But something happened. We started sticking our nose in everybody else's business and killing our boys.
Vietnam,
you name them all. Afghanistan, stay the heck up. We don't belong in that place. The Arabs will never get along with anybody. All they've ever did was throughout their generation was fight, fight, fight. They fought Israel, and God saved Israel. It's not going to stop. It's bad. We've got a man that sympathizes with all sorts of things that we would not agree with. He's the president, for crying out loud. He doesn't care. He blames Trump for everything that's going on now. He's an imbecile. Something's wrong with his head. That man is sick, and they should not let him remain president. Democratic Party, if there were any kind of a decent, like it used to be, a good working man's party, then they would have said, you need a hospital, you cannot be president anymore. That's it. They don't care. They don't love America anymore. They don't love America. Now, the Republicans say they do, but they're cowards. 2 or 3 of them have done their best to speak up. They gave up, and they're not saying a word now.
What do you think it's going to take to fix the country?
To fix the country? Probably another battle,
What kind of battle?
another war. Air, Navy with China.
Do you think that'll bring people together?
You know, it depends just how the war goes. It just depends on how the war goes. We're a strange kind of people. We're free people. All we got to do is see other countries, travel around the world. Even though we have a bunch of culprits leading the country, we're still free. By gosh, I'm telling you right now, we are losing our democracy. We've lost being a republic. That's gone. We used to tell the government because we paid them. Now they tell us and we still pay them. You ever hear of a thing like, you give me a job, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do?
I know what you mean.
We're in bad shape. And the schools aren't doing anything about it either, though they're running scared. Yes. We have no real... And, you know, our veterans that have come from... And I don't blame them. These are political wars. These are not honorable wars. None of them ever won a thing. None of it's been won. Even Korea. We stopped at the... What do you call it? At the parallel, wherever it was. That's where it ended, right there. They outnumbered us. Massive Chinese told us to get off the Wonsan evacuation. Marines dropped their weapons for the first time in history and got aboard ship. Ordered. We just don't keep our nose in our own affairs. We don't need any help if we could be the nation we once were. We know what fighting is. We've had to do it. Our history tells us that. We had it with the French. We had it with Britain. Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever get back to
Being a
what your
republic
generation
again?
was like in the 40s?
I don't know. I sure hope so.
I do
I don't
too.
think I'll see it. I don't think I'll see it. Not in the next 5, 6 years. It's serious business, and we've got to be thinking about it, and the schools aren't doing anything about it at all. They're confused. I get in there, and the teachers, they're just putting their time in, collecting the money. What are they going to do? They went to college to learn to be a teacher. What are they going to do? Where are they going?
Let's wrap this up on a positive
Let's
note.
wrap it up.
What does it mean to you to be an American?
What does it mean to me to...
After everything you've seen, you're 98 years old, you were born, you went through the Great Depression, you went through World War II, you've seen the country, I mean, you have a 100-year view of the journey of this country. If with everything you've experienced, what does it mean to you to be an American today?
I don't say it was in vain. Some of the stuff we had to do. But probably the way we went about doing it, I don't foresee any help. I don't see any changes, any real desire to change. We're too busy making money. We're too busy wanting material things. We're material crazy. We've got so much material things, we don't know where to put us, in the attics, in the garage. Look at the garage. You go down our street where I live, garages are open. When they open them up, the car sits outside in the weather. The walls touching the stuff that's in the garage. and they're still getting more. Do you know that I drove a school bus before I came this way. I had some time and I volunteered to run a bus for a few months. Did I ever get an education? Where kids really are. There's one boy, here's an example. He gets on in the morning. Good morning, buddy. Okay. I drive on. Evening, school's over. So long, pal. Out he goes. Goes to the mailbox and gets the mail out. Reaches up above the door and grabs the key and goes in the house. What does he do when he gets in that house? There's nobody there. What does he do? Who knows? Can you understand why there's suicide with teenagers today? Because Ma's not there. She isn't at home anymore. Don't worry about it, kids. You go to McDonald's. We'll go out for dinner Saturday. I go to a restaurant Saturday and Sunday. That place is packed. School out in the summertime, they have credit cards. High school kids, they use credit cards in that restaurant. And we wonder why they're not thinking seriously of what our country is doing. Whereas, let it go on by. We're doing all right. As long as they leave us alone, just leave us. That's it. People don't like us. They believe we're greedy, conceited people. We got too much. We've been too fortunate. I have no doubt about that. Do you know that have you been to Japan?
I haven't.
If you went there to get a good education, after the war, after everything calmed down and the Bolsheviks were out of there, Japan started a new government. Democratic. They are more democratic than we are. All you've got to do is go to that country. I stopped off there for about 5-6 hours, going to Iwo Jima on a visit, on a tour. Huh. Well, they meet you when you come into the airport. They have clerks, women dressed up beautiful in uniforms, and the men, and they bow, and they shake your hand, and they lead you to where you want to go. That's the way they treat us. I was on that same trip. We're heading from California to Tokyo. 12 hours, we lose a day. Tired, legs hurting, everything, bodies hurting. It was awful. Cramped in, loaded with families. It was break time in March. Japan here, Americans there, back and forth. There was a family sitting there, right over there. And there was one seat empty. And I wanted to get acquainted with them. I did. So I got up and I had this cap on. I sat down next to the little girl and she smiled at me and I smiled at her. And the mother leaned forward. The father was sleeping. The mother leaned forward like that. She said, "You? Iwo Jima?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She turned like this and woke her husband up. And he goes, "Oh, what?" Like that. He didn't know what was happening. She said, like that. And he leaned like that over and he looked at me and he said, "You on Iwo Jima?" I said, "Yes, sir." That's what he gave me. Great. We killed 22,000 just on Iwo Jima of their boys. They killed more than us, but I mean, that's what we killed. Why would he have done that? I think he realized that they lied to the people and said they were on a holy war, and they lost their boys on those islands because their own leaders lied to them. Well, the leaders got out and they turned like we were, democratic, and that's what they are now. They're more democratic than we are. No more will the group of people run that country. The people run that country.
Do you think we can get back to that?
We could if the people wanted to. It's our country. We pay them their salary. We can fire them if we'll do it. No one will do it. No. If the bullies keep saying, sit down or I'll bounce you on the head, you're going to sit down. Unless you say, well, no, you're going to bounce me on the head. Yeah. But and I talk to a lot of people. A lot of people don't agree with me. They think that's starting wars.
I think a lot of people do agree with you,
They
Don.
do. They don't want to do it. Look at Russia right now. Putin doesn't scare me at all. He's got his hands. He doesn't know what the heck to do now. They're trying to arrest him. Now he's got his Bolsheviks fighting them. They got something going on in the country now because he attacked them. And do you know that Biden just sent 3,000 of our boys over there? Why? I'll tell you why. Because just like everything else, Afghanistan, you name it, they're going to be in there entangled in that thing, and we're going to pay a terrible price for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take. It's going to take the people. The people will have to run our country again. We have to put in honest, God-fearing men to run our country like we used to have. That's what made us such a great nation. I see that's what you learn, and we learned in school. These kids don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about.
I wish I could have seen those days. I hope my son sees them.
We gotta love our country again. Breaks my heart.
Me too, Don. Me too.
Sit down. Take it easy. Don't get so doggone excited.
Well, how about we end this with a message from you on what the American flag means to you?
You know, it's one thing for me to end. And we did something tonight that I don't normally do because I'm not asked to do it. It's not that I don't want to. It's that I just don't want any more trouble on my hands, and maybe it's not the proper place. You know, what do I think about the country? What do you think should happen? Don't talk about those things. All you do is start problems. You know, Republicans, Democrats. I spoke at our own roll call, and we had a great crowd. And a couple got up over there and started walking out. I said, folks, are you leaving? We didn't come here to hear politics. I never talked about any politics. I talked about getting our country straightened out. I didn't talk about politics. I said, sorry. A fellow sitting there said it in a low voice, don't let the door bang you when he went out. I said to him, why didn't you shout that out? He said, I didn't want to do that. Oh, gosh. Well, all I can do is do what I know I have to do and just wait and see what happens and say, well, God, I did the best I could.
Yeah. Well,
I don't go out and speak, and I didn't do it here today, just to be talking and to be heard. You know, Madsen and I, General Mad Dog Madsen. Madsen. He and I had a lot of good talks. We appeared at a Marine Corps ball, and he was speaker, and I was singer. And because I'm from the old Corps, we were the new Corps, but the old Corps taught us. Now I'm talking to the new Corps. I'm the old Corps. But we got along so darn good. He says, a lot of these snot-faced young Marines, he says, snot-faced young Marines, you can't talk to them. They won't listen to you. he had a pity party going on. But he's the one that told Donald Trump about me, because that's why Donald Trump sent me that. I thought that was good.
What did he send you?
Huh?
What did he send you?
Did I tell you about it?
No.
Oh, Donald Trump sent me a birthday greeting.
No
Beautiful.
kidding.
I got it up right on my display. Well, the mail rang, or the door rang, and my daughter went and got the mail. She said, "Hey, this is an express mail from Washington, D.C." So I said, "Go ahead, open it up." So she opened it up. I said, "Oh my gosh, Dad!" What? She gave it to me. Here it was in a frame, a beautiful Washington certified document, and Donald J. Trump signed it, said, "Dear Brother Graves." And he talked. It was beautiful. I got a copy of it in the car. I use it. Right away, I run and get a substitute copy, so I can show people. But the other one's on the wall.
Good.
I thought that was nice of him. But then I said to the kids, I said, "Trump doesn't know me." Then I said, "Wait a minute. Mad Dog, he's Secretary of Defense."
Well done.
I could say to my friends, "Trump sent you a letter?" "Yeah, we're good friends."
Well done. I just want to thank you for coming.
Oh, no. Thanks for the invitation. Right? Right, Kelly? Are you awake? You were sleeping. You didn't hear me, did you?
Not at all, sir.
But I just want to say again, it was a real honor to have you sitting here, and there's not a lot of you guys left from the greatest generation that this country's ever seen, the World War II veteran generation. And this just means the world to me.
Well,
thank you for being here.
No, it's my pleasure, and we've enjoyed every bit of it. And I chalk it down as another one of our good meetings.
I hope to see you again.
Yep.
And Don, I know you're a singer. Do you want to end this with a certain song?
Huh?
Do you want to end this singing a certain song?
Sure. Shall we do God Bless America?
Let's do it.
Kelly, you going to sing with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, better. I'll go back there and scold you. Spank you. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. I've added some to that when I sing it. No, I just want to do it. America, America, America.
Beautiful. Beautiful. God bless America.
Yep.
And God bless you, Don.
Oh, he has.
Thank you for
I
coming.
don't deserve it, but he has.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Sean Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.